What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today, I'm excited to bring you my full review of the EMP EDC Nymble X. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going through specs, size comparisons, thoughts and impressions, and some alternative recommendations just in case you're interested in them. So let me go ahead and jump into the specs. The Nymble X has a 3.5-inch M390 blade. This one is black washed. It has a 4.6-inch titanium frame lock handle. Overall length of the Nymble X is 8.1 inches. So this one's definitely their biggest model to date. The weight, they claim it's 4.4 ounces. We're going to grab the scale, bring that on out here, and check the weight. Let's see, 4.3. So coming in just a little bit lighter. Yep, just a little bit lighter. I thought the scale was going to be temperamental today, but it's not. So not too bad. 4.3 for an 8-inch knife. That is a really good size. What I'm going to do next is go ahead and bring out some knives to do size comparisons, give you an idea just how big or small the knife is. First up, we're going to go ahead and bring out the Demco AD20.5. And you can see this is definitely bigger than the Demco. And I will also bring out the Spyderco Shaman. The Shaman is going to be relatively close in size here. I'm trying to line them up in the pivots. So you can see very similar to the size of the Spyderco Shaman. Let me go ahead and move these out of the way, and we will bring out the next two comparison knives for size reference. First up, we're going to go ahead and bring out the Benchmade Bug Out, a very recognizable knife, and you can see here that the Nymble X is definitely bigger than the Bug Out. Next, we'll bring out the Spyderco Shaman. The Shaman is going to be, again, relatively close in size to that Nymble X. So hopefully if you're familiar with either one of these knives, you are getting a really good idea the size of the Nymble. The much larger Nymble X is definitely bigger than the Nymble. Last but not least, we'll bring out a couple of budget knives. First, we're going to bring out the QB Royal. This is my sub 3-inch knife comparison here, and also a very budget-friendly knife. That is the KU321 if you're looking it up and you're not finding it as the QB Royal. And then we will bring out the Buck 110. So there you go. You can see not quite as long as the Buck 110, but it has definite more girth. What we're going to do is just a profile comparison. This is to help you understand just how thick it is, how it'll be in hand, in pocket, all of that good stuff. All right, here we go. Against the KU321. And this is a QSP manufactured knife, just for the record. So against the QB, just a little bit thinner. We'll go ahead and bring out the Demco. Demco is thinner than the Nymble X, and then we'll bring out the Bug Out. So there you go. Against the Bug Out, you can see the Bug Out is thinner. And just in case you're interested in a big knife comparison, here it is against the Shaman, and you can see you're running about the exact same thickness as the Shaman. All right, let me get into my thoughts and impressions on this knife. So first, I'm going to talk about the finish. I've been super impressed with a lot of QSP knives that I've come in contact with here lately, especially from a designer perspective. I think the Cuvist was a QSP knife. I believe the Stout is a QSP knife, and then the Nymble X being a QSP manufactured knife. This really feels like a higher end, like a Bestech Riot finished knife, and I can understand why so many manufacturers are going with the QSP. It is really, really nice, and I'm just going to bring it in nice and close here. The frag on here looks really well done. It has good knockdown chamfering. It's sharp, but it's knocked down to where it's not uncomfortable or hot in hand. Really good looking finishes here on the pocket clip. Good clearance. It's off of the lock bar, which I really appreciate from a design perspective. You can see there is internal milling to help keep that weight down to that 4.3 ounce mark. I'm not a huge fan of the lanyard holds, but you know, this is actually kind of tastefully done. Very small, as far back as you can. It's not interfering with the pocket clip. Again, that titanium mill pocket clip looking really good. This is a frame lock, and it has a lock bar insert. Very comfortable in hand. Even when you're choking back or pulling back on the handle, I have plenty of room to hold on to it. I can choke up right over top of where the finger guard is, Or I can use the forward finger choil, and it does kind of separate the hands a little bit pretty comfortably for push cuts. Now, you do have to be careful because it is sharp all the way out to the edge. So if you're slipping, you definitely want to make sure you're pushing down, but you don't want to do any task that's causing you to move forward. I recommend at the very least, if you're going to do that, use that finger guard if you have to puncture first, and then just go ahead and slide up for the push cuts. That way it's nice and safe. For the fingers, this is really thin too. Like as I'm holding it, I forgot to mention that a minute ago, but it's really thin in hand. So that means it's going to carry really thin in pocket too, nice and tight to the body. It's not going to bulge or poke out with the shirt covering it. So if that's something that concerns you, that's going to be really good. But I really love the ergos on this. It's very, very comfortable. I appreciate that they push the jimping all the way out because it at least catches part of my thumb. Again, a large hand reviewer. I'm bringing you all of this feedback from a large hand perspective. Medium to large hands and small hands, you're going to have pretty much the opposite experience I think that I'm having here. So that thinness does cause it to kind of be a little small in hand, but it's still really, really comfortable. And I appreciate that a lot. So I'm glad I didn't pick up the regular Nymble because I don't think I would have enjoyed that at all. I definitely believe it would have been way too small. Geometry on the blade is pretty good. It's not the thinnest I've ever felt, but they do get it pretty thin behind the edge, which is impressive. You got a decently tall flat grind going up about 3/4 of the way of the blade. So it's going to slice through the material pretty good. And as I mentioned, the knife itself is thin. So is that blade stock. So that is cutting through the materials nicely. It has a great drop point here. I believe this is more of a sheep's foot, but again, for those utility and draw cuts, you're noticing I'm not having to get way up high with that. I can get to the tip relatively comfortable down low. The action on here is really smooth. Good ceramic bearings in the pivot, good action, really, really tuned for the front flip and for the flipper tab. It works really well. Trying to fail it, I have not been successful, but I will also say that I think the detent is a little bit light for that reverse flick. So it is not really giving you enough, like you're able to just gently kind of kick it out. I would like a little bit stronger of a detent so that you have to really force it to break that detent. I think this one could be tuned slightly without sacrificing the action that you're having with the front flipper or the flipper tab. Lots of deployment means as I'm talking through all of that, so it is very fidgety. So if you like a fidgety knife, this is really going to work well for you. I mean, you just can do it you can deploy it in a multitude of ways and not get bored with it. Again, if you like to fidget, which I think the majority of us who are really into knives appreciate something that is very fidgety. The lines here, really tight, nicely done. You obviously you have some gaps, so there's some looseness around the tolerances here on the knife, but I thought it was really interesting, and let me flip it over, how they came in close to the pivot and then back out. So the detent ball, if you see here, let me grab my flashlight to help out a little bit. So if you can see here, little pocket lint, sorry. And I'll try to zoom in. That detent ball, maybe if I move back a little bit, is right up against the blade. So where that disengagement is, as soon as you release it, right there, that is where it breaks. So nice, not the earliest knife I've ever seen, but it's definitely pretty early. And for a large knife, I really do appreciate that. Thumb hole is nice and chamfered, but it also digs down into the actual blade. So it is catching very nicely, and it has plenty of space for the larger hand folks out there to get that finger in there and just really rocket it out. So all in all, I'm really impressed just with the build. I love the design, very comfortable. I know I was disappointed when I missed out on the drop. I got the notification saying I got one. 3 days later, they said I didn't get one. There was an error with the system where it let some through and it shouldn't have. So I was disappointed, and I got my feelings hurt a little bit by being duped. So I wasn't really trying to chase it too hard. I kept an eye out and always said if I got the one that I wanted at a good price, I would do it. So Jay Dizzle, he and I worked out an arrangement, a little bit of a knife trade and some labor trade for some scales and such. So I really appreciate the fact that he was willing to do that, because he was saying that he wasn't really carrying this one as much as others, and I totally understand that. I moved through inventory exactly the same way. Alternative recommendations, I got a few of them. The first one, which is going to be a drop point, but a very steep drop point, is actually going to be the Ace Grand from Giant Mouse. Now, hear me out. This is a little bit thicker, has contoured scales, but it has really nice ergos. It has a taller flat grind. You can get it with the LMAX steel, which is a really great steel, very nice micarta. And the liner lock is not going to be something you have to worry about if you're really gripping hard down on the knife, because that liner lock is going to be protected by the outer scale. So with the frame locks, you do kind of have to worry a little bit about, forcing. If you're doing a hard grip, like you're gorilla gripping it for whatever task you're performing, you do have to worry about the life expectancy of the lock bar moving over. Eventually, you're going to need to replace that lock bar insert, which you don't have that problem with this one. The other thing, too, is that this is, I believe, either 300 or 350. I apologize. I didn't jot it down. Either way, you're getting the Ace Grand, with premium steels and really well done micarta. The entire knife is really well done for $199 before any type of markups for inflation. I do want to throw that caveat out there, but that is definitely one. The other one I had out here a little while ago is actually going to be the SIG K320 made by Hogue, with the aluminum handles and S30V, which I know the M390 is a more desirable steel, but let's be honest, S30V, when treated correctly, has really great edge retention and really good ease of maintenance to strop and sharpen, which is a reason that I want to throw that out there. Also, you're getting 100% lockup with the Able Lock. And again, I'm bringing this up because if you do want something that you're hard using and you're having to grip hard down on to do your cutting, it's gonna be comfortable because it has that V shape where it gets a little bit fatter out to the bigger part of the hand, but it's a little bit skinnier towards the smaller part of the hand. So the ergos are outstanding on this knife. You get a nice thin blade on here with a super tall flat grind on it as well, and you're getting it USA made. And now granted, M390 titanium more desirable, I get that, but I'm saying you're getting this knife for under 200 still, which is really impressive for what you're getting with the knife. And the last alternative recommendation that I'll make here today is going to actually be the Shaman that I had out here earlier. And I know I just made a USA made recommendation, but here's the thing. You can get any kind of blade steel that you want on the Shaman depending on where you look around. I personally really love the M4 that came on here, but you can get S90V, LMAX, you can get all kinds of steel. You just got to watch for the drops. The reason I mention this one is because, again, compression lock, hand out of the way. If you're using it hard use, you don't have to worry about wearing out the lock bar. But the other reason for this one too is if you like titanium and you have a steel preference, you can go out just about anywhere and pick up a set of titanium scales, and you're still going to come out right around or under, depending if this is 300 or 350, the price of this. So those are all my alternative recommendations. Do I recommend this knife? Yes, certainly I do. It is very well made. I like the design. QSP did a really good job with it. It's very fidgety, and it's different, right? Because of all the deployment methods, very different from everything that I just threw out here as far as recommendations. So in the end, great knife. I really enjoyed getting it. I'm glad I picked it up, and it'll probably stay around for a little while, if not, for a long time. It all depends, right? Like what comes out, how often I'm carrying it. Those all play a factor, but I really am enjoying it, and I think I can see keeping it around for a while. The next video that I'll be doing on this one is I'm going to be tuning that detent, so be on the lookout for that if you're interested. It'll be part of the disassembly, so it'll be disassembly and detent adjustment, very similar to what I did with the Syncut San Angelo. I'll do that all in one video. I don't think it needs to be broken out. I think it'd be wise to, while I have it apart, to clean it, to tune that detent, so I can show you how to do that with a frame lock, because the other one was a liner lock. If you enjoyed today's video, if you could do me a favor, leave a like. It really helps the channel consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. If you are subscribed, don't forget to set your notification bell to all. You can always ignore alerts for anything that I'm throwing out there that you don't like. You can just dismiss the notification, but you don't want to miss alerts, because again, there's giveaways and things that I do back to the community to show my appreciation for the support. Thanks to everyone out there who's been supporting all along. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.